Welcome to this podcast of Geo-Economics, where we look at recent updates on global geoeconomics landscape as geopolitics and world economy converges. This convergence of economic and security thinking is placing added pressure on the norms and rules that have governed the global economy for decades.
Right, and the long-standing use of financial sanctions by the US and other G7 and OECD nations as a tool of foreign policy has led to attempts by non-Western nations to develop alternative arrangements and circumvent impacts.
And what are those attempts if we can get a bird's-eye view on those?
These arrangements include de-dollarization efforts through the development of digital currencies and alternatives to the SWIFT financial messaging system. SWIFT, that is an established system that provides the main messaging network for international payments. SWIFT uses the US dollar as its currency, countering that there is BRICS system, which is up in the air or has made any ground. Let's see.
BRICS countries have not and are not creating an alternative to SWIFT in their pursuit of financial cooperation, said Russian President Vladimir Putin.
And that's what I thought, that creating a system on top of a system while interacting with same counterparts make less sense.
Well, while the world is moving in a constant reconfiguration cycle, the technology race among great powers has highlighted the importance and geographic location of the world's biggest producers of semiconductors,
as well as issues concerning data localization and data sovereignty.
On the other hand, military strength remains a significant determinant of power and status. Deep economic integration has led to the exponential weight of economic policy instruments for global powers and aspirants alike to achieve strategic objectives such as investment policies, commodity restrictions, and financial sanctions to achieve geopolitical aims, thereby promoting and securing national interests.
Speaking of risks, default risk for most public US companies ticked lower at the end of the third quarter compared to the second quarter. Median probability of default scores dropped across 7 of 11 market sectors, with the remaining 4: healthcare, utilities, real estate, and financials.
So according to this risk wedge scores by US sector, US economy is getting stronger. Does that also mean that Feds will go ahead with their interest rate cut schedule as we see in EU and Canada?
Likely so, although there are a number of data indices that they look at as part of their risk assessment. As commodity prices undergo rapid corrections, the labour market is experiencing a slower recovery. While conditions are improving for employers, wage growth remains sluggish due to high interest rates and reduced hiring optimism.
I'm wondering, why is it necessary that high interest rates equals high unemployment?
Well, not necessarily. End of the day, it's about cost to borrow business is the real business. And if that's high, then either there's going to be more unemployment or stagnant growth.
Let's take a look at impacts of high inflation goods on wealthier versus lower income Americans. Lower income Americans have had to cut their spending on discretionary items. Inflation sharply increased the portion of their income that they had to spend on housing and food, leaving little for other purchases.
Higher income households have been fortified by huge gains in housing and stock market wealth since the pandemic. So now, wealthier consumers, boosted by strong gains in income, home equity, and stock market wealth, have increasingly driven the spending, and while lower income consumers, by contrast, have been disproportionately squeezed. The disparities help explain the gap between gloomy consumer sentiment and widespread evidence of a healthy US economy, which has managed to keep expanding at a solid pace.
And the head of the International Monetary Fund cautioned on Thursday that high government debt and low growth remained major impediments to the global economy.
Well, international trade would no longer be the engine of growth it once was, highlighting the proliferation of restrictive policies among many economies.
The European Central Bank, which sets interest rates for the 20 countries, does not expect the bloc to slide into recession. In a press briefing following the decision, ECB President Christine Lagarde gave few signals that the bank would be cutting interest rates again.
Let's switch gears to AI, which is now a key tech indicator. Major tech firms and dozens of other tech companies are descending on Las Vegas next week to showcase artificial intelligence tools they say will save doctors and nurses valuable time.
So it's used a major talking point in healthcare space, a big area which is a major chunk of U.S. economy at least.
Right, but I think its use as of now is limited to data mining and analytics beside customers' calls care. However, a big leap on getting down to results is going to happen in future.
So beside fuzziness in AI applications, AI detectors falsely accuse students of cheating, with big consequences.
Well, there are going to be side effects of AI utilization.
And speaking of economic race in AI, China has outpaced the United States in AI and machine learning, ML patents every year since 2021. China leads the generative AI patents race, with Tencent and Baidu topping the list.
While the United States is ahead in translating cutting-edge research into real-world products and has a predictable legal system that some say is an asset in the global AI competition.
Let's move now to what's on voters' mind on U.S. tariffs. According to Bechtel, election-related hedging has helped recent dollar strength, with much of the activity being made against the Mexican peso and Chinese yuan, which are going to be the two main targets for any sort of tariff-related friction or trade-related friction.
And I think, in addition, the Brazilian real also underperformed, with traders looking past government pledges to contain spending, while Colombia's peso and Peru's sol lagged peers.
So do you agree that hedge fund FX option bets are soaring on Trump tariff risk?
True that, but tariffs are easy to impose and hard to remove. It will certainly trigger a global trade war. On the contrary, though, the move would bring more of the supply chain back to US soil, economists said.
Let's take a look at global economic outlook. China's chips and electronics, its biggest export category. This category includes semiconductors, telephones, and batteries, and it accounted for 25.2% of China's total exports in May 2024. The most recent data available. That compares with 25.3% of total exports for the same month in the prior year.
However, China's economy saw its slowest growth in more than a year, indicating a further fiscal boost might be looming if Beijing intends to achieve its official growth target of around 5% for the year. China's stimulus should absolutely surpass 10 trillion yuan. That's a take, according to the government economist.
Well, folks, this brings us to the end of this bird-eye view on geo-economics. Please subscribe if you like. So long!
Thanks for tuning in. See you later.